Well, I'll be leaving, right?
Oh, okay.
Motion on the floor to employee compensation retroactive till, overtime compensation retroactive till May 16th, 2022. I have a second by Mr. Meyer. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next agenda item is closed session. Do I have a motion to go second? Okay. Review of performance improvement plan relating to employee job performance pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.851C for consideration of employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Yes, Russell. Mr. Hennigan. Jeremiah. Yes, we are now in closed session.
You know you want to go.
I'm just gonna hang on to this because I'm gonna go right back.
Yeah, we're gonna need it again a couple more times.
Alright, closed session, just so you're aware, is up to you guys, if you want to do the exit surveys this next closed session. That's all that would be seen this time. So that would be a quick, just.
Yep.
So the other part, so you want me to go grab them?
Yes.
Sure, they're there.
Oops, nope.
Right, yeah.
He's coming.
So we are on to sheriff in the jail. Presentation and discussion on recruitment and retention.
He's on his way.
Do I need to turn this?
Yes.
Did you send that to them?
Oh, hey, Phil.
Can you?
Yeah.
I heard you.
That's good.
Like afterwards?
Well, don't you want it up on the TV?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll just take a minute.
You're gonna get really good at public speaking someday. I just know you are.
Someday.
Put more pictures in this one.
Yes.
I like pictures.
I haven't completely colored them in yet though, but.
I can work on that later.
Okay. We talked about that,
He lost his crayon sharp.
we talked about that today, didn't we?
Pictures?
Okay, yeah, you talked about it today, right?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
I got a couple grandkids in here.
I told you sometimes black and white is fine. That's the.
Not always though.
What'd you forget now?
Just wait for the TV. I'll grab my clicker.
Oh, your clicker?
I'll grab the clicker.
Oh, I have one in here.
What?
I think I have one in my bag.
You got a clicker?
Yeah.
Somebody can hit the button for you too.
That's annoying. When the presenter like, next slide. Next slide.
You got two. I thought you had this down to like 3 slides.
No, 2 added for you fine people.
Is that all we were doing, was an update on first what you added?
Yeah.
Turn TV on.
It's still clearing up.
No. Just stand back, so.
Here we go.
So, out of your way. Based on the last presentation, this committee asked that we put some additional numbers together. So that's what we did. So this slide is showing a graph and the actual numbers for our overtime budget and where we are for this year. 2024 overtime budget for patrol is $48,000. 24 overtime budget for jail dispatch is $61,000. As of May 15th of this year, so less than half of the year, patrol was at 84% of their budgeted overtime, and jail dispatch was at $39,000 or 64% of their budgeted overtime. That is due to all the open shifts because of lack of staff. The second thing you guys asked for is this. So what this is, on the left is patrol, right is jail dispatch. On the left is 2020, number of vacant shifts we had, number of overtime shifts, all of 2020 was 56 for an average of 4 per month. Overtime shifts for 2021, total of 67, average of 5 per month. So on 22, 71 total, average of 5 per month. 23, we had 223 overtime shifts for an average of 18 per month. And in 2024, just through June, we have a total of 115 overtime shifts, which equals about 19 per month. Other side is jail dispatch, and there's the numbers for them. So then what we did is, I think Dave asked this question. Might have been Mr. Russell. What we did is we took a patrol deputy who just resigned, and we took his hourly rate. He was a 9 or 10 year patrol deputy. We took his hourly rate at $29.31 with no bennies. That's just straight hourly rate. Our patrol deputies work 192 regular time hours a month. So $29.31 times 192 is $5,600. We took that $5,600, times it by 12, and you get $67,000. That's his gross salary with no bennies. What we did then is, because he's gone, we have to fill his shifts. I filled his shift with Sergeant Wycheck, who's sitting in the back. Sergeant Wycheck makes $30.81 an hour, no bennies. Take that at 192 hours per month is $8,800. Times that 8,800 by 12 months in a year, it's $106,000 he would make in just salary working all of Ben's overtime shifts. So you take Matt's $106,000 and Ben's $67,000, and we're paying Matt, the county's paying Matt $39,000 more a year to work Ben's shifts. That's no benefits factored in, just straight hourly rate. And that's just one vacancy. When we have 2 or 3, you can times that by 2 or 3. So that's what you guys, I think, asked for last time.
Yeah, I'd just like to put a little disclaimer on, is that, yes, we have that vacant position, so the actual impact would be the full $38,949.12, because we wouldn't be paying, if the person that left had health insurance, we would be paying those health insurance premiums on that position, if that makes sense. So if the vacancy that we're filling had a family health insurance plan, you would, take a little over $20,000 off of that.
You don't calculate the bennies on the overtime anyway, do you?
No.
Right, so that's why I'm saying that we would have.
It's just the incremental halftime.
Right, we would have, instead of, this one person is filling 2 positions.
Right.
So we'd only have 1 position worth of
Right.
health insurance.
Yeah, so you're doing the right thing. The other thing is, that's straight time, but now you're paying time and a half for those hours.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. Right. Yep, it should be straight time.
So every
Right.
overtime hour is half an hour straight time for somebody else. Adds up incrementally.
There has to be a point at which the amount of overtime is no longer justified as overtime and you need another person, so to speak, right? I mean,
Yes.
Oftentimes, I know in business, that it's cheaper to pay overtime than it is to
Up to a point.
employee because you have fringe benefit, so there's gotta be, you know, some
Number,
metric that tells you when,
Yes.
when you.
so number wise, you're very accurate.
Yeah.
The other half of that is employee burnout.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at numbers now,
Oh, sure.
but really what the important thing is the employee burnout and their mental health. But you're right, you know, a lot of times, let's say it costs the county $100,000 to employ a deputy, we might only have $92,000 in overtime, but the amount of extra shifts that all those people are working is just killing them.
So did we not add, a position a couple of years ago? Deb?
We took our half-times and, full-time, part-times and made it full-time. We've not added a deputy.
Well, I thought we added one.
You know, we had 2 part-timers.
That was the Carl Fisher solution.
That's where we went from the full, part-times to full-time.
Okay.
Yeah, we had 2 part-timers that were working full-time hours anyways
Yeah.
every year, so we just made them full-timers. That was 6, 7,
That was Bryson.
December 18th.
It was Bryson Gillett.
yeah, it was Bryson Jill like 4 years ago. Okay,
So
so
like
4 to
4
5 years
years.
ago.
So if, you know, if they're burning out from the overtime,
Mm-hmm.
are they gonna burn out even if they're making more money? Or do we really need to look at a staff change rather than?
So I think the reason why the more money would create less vacancies, right? That we would be able to retain people if we're fully staffed, overtime's not an issue. Since we've had this meeting last month, I've had 3 current employees ask me if they could use me as a personal reference because they're looking for other jobs currently because of the amount of overtime and the better.
And one just interviewed for Barron County last week.
So how much overtime is attributable to vacancies created by an unfilled position as opposed to vacations, sick leave, and other, reasons?
Okay, so here's the chart, right? So when we're fully staffed on patrol, let's look at 2020, okay? When we're fully staffed, those are how many overtime shifts we had that whole year. Because when we're fully staffed, I can move people around to cover shifts. So let's say tonight, it's, Sergeant Wycheck, Deputy Heater, and Deputy Anderson. If Deputy Heater calls in sick for tonight, or takes a vacation day, or takes a comp day, I can move Sergeant Wycheck to work his shift. But when we're short, we only have 2 guys on, we have to fill that shift constantly. Day shift 2, day shift and night shift.
Cause you're saying in 2020 and 2021, you were fully staffed, and
22.
that's your overtime shifts. Okay.
Yep. I was actually gonna bring the overtime sheets so you guys could look at them, but I didn't. There was literally overtime postings in 2021, 22 with either 0 or 3 overtime shifts for the whole month. Now, our overtime postings, we can walk by this card right now, they're 2 pages. I think going back to now is a page and a half long. I'm working a patrol shift this month. An investigator is working a patrol shift this month because they're getting killed.
Well, just as a general rule, 192 hours is,
A lot in a month anyways.
most people only work
160.
60.
Mhm.
So you got a whole week extra.
Yep, they work 48 hours a week, regular time.
The other common theme that is occurring, because we're shorthanded, we're generally working with 2 people every shift when 3s are full staff. 2 people is not adequate, it's creating officer safety issues, and there's guys that are talking about it because you're hung out to dry. If you're on one side of the county, even if the other person is in Ladysmith, your backup is 20 miles away, 20 minutes away, whatever. There's a lot of safety concerns with running short-staffed all the time.
You mentioned the radio not working. Deputy Zelke was on a call today. Arrested person for drugs. Dispatch tried to call him. He tried to talk back to them for at least 5 minutes. No one could hear him. I listened to that in my office today. And he wasn't even far from Ladysmith. He was on Flambeau Ave.
Well, the other thing we were talking about was benefits, and what we can do to, because this will be addressed in our upcoming contract negotiations.
Right.
So the other thing we talked about was benefits, what can we do to help retain deputies because of the benefits? Did you bring us anything about benefits?
I would say that that is Ashley Goodis's territory, because the police, even though they are under contract, follow what the county does for benefits. And she is actively
We're
working on that.
marketing our plan right now.
We can't negotiate benefits.
Right, that's what I mean. So we're gonna be, coming up, we'll be addressing this side of it. But it's the other side that I think we had discussed that there were some deficiencies there that we'd like to, you know, at least have the conversation about.
Yeah, and we've been very appreciative with, I know the whole HSA contribution for being maximum sick time isn't a big benefit, but it is a benefit that a lot of guys have appreciated and taken advantage of. I mean, I think I told you, Jim, soon after that was enacted, we had a guy use a vacation day instead of a sick day, because he wanted that max sick time. And that's gonna end up saving the county several hundreds of dollars, just that one event. So, do you guys have any questions on either one of these two? They're pretty straightforward, it's just straight numbers.
No, I think that helps give the full board the picture that they would be asking. It answers the questions that they would have asked. And it prevents you from having to come back to them again with the answers to those questions.
Sure.
So is it is it necessarily a 1-for-1? So, I lose an officer, I have to pick up 192 hours a month somewhere. Is that necessarily one follows the other? So I'm one officer down, I have to pick up that, whatever those hours
Yes,
are.
and it just dominoes from there, so we're short 2 guys, 192 times 2.
Okay, so it just one follows the other.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say, just answer the question, when you're talking about replacing the time frame from this person quitting to you have that replaced is how long?
Months, it can be up to 8 months, depending on if you put them through the academy. That's, I shouldn't say it's the problem with law enforcement, that's one of the issues that we face in law enforcement, is we can't just have a hiring process, post the opening, do an interview and hire them. That almost always never happens anymore. We had interviews today for our last vacancy, and we selected a gentleman that is currently in the academy and won't be done until September. So there's 4 months that we know we have to wait.
So even if it was, we hire somebody, we do the background, we do that process alone takes a month.
At least.
And then it's 12 or so weeks of FTO before they're on their own. So, and that's if everything is good, but like you said, a lot of it, now we're waiting on the academies, because you can't get nobody that's certified anymore unless you put them through the academy.
Okay. Satisfied so far? Do we wanna talk about when this should be presented to the full board? Because I don't know if you wanna talk about that now, or
I think you wanted to do this in June. I think that was our conversation at the last meeting, correct?
do we wanna do it in June? Or July? I mean, I think the June board meeting is going to already be pretty heavy on law enforcement with the jail stuff. Agreed?
Well, yeah, I would say probably, but do you wanna wait? Does that I'd leave that up to you, that would be my suggestion. This is, when do you feel comfortable presenting this?
I don't think there's an issue if we do it in June, July, or August.
Okay,
So if you guys wanna push this off to July,
Yeah, I don't see there's a huge issue when it goes to full county board. What are we gonna fix in June? If we do it in June, what are we gonna fix in July if we do it in July? I think a lot of it's gonna push it a little farther down the line, due to contract. I mean, that's,
Contract, and then we wouldn't change our benefits anyway until,
Right.
you know,
So,
effective 1/1.
I'm with Phil, we're pretty heavy in June, and so if you wanna do it in July or August out of that, I'm okay with that.
Which one would give you time to bring us the benefit comps?
I can't bring you any of that, that's all with our broker. So that will be when that comes back, and I don't think they're predicted to come back until July. Our RFPs for that.
So would it be better to wait till August? That way we have that information.
I don't know that it's gonna be
How about-
ready though to go to board. I don't know when insurance and benefits will be ready to go to board, because first of all, it's gonna come to personnel to hash out what we can do, what our options are. So I don't even know if it would go to board by August. And we could give them, I guess, a brief overview.
Can we just sit on these numbers and then we have something we'll ask to be on the agenda?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, whatever you're comfortable with is, you know, I don't want you to feel like I'm discouraging you from bringing this.
No, I think it'll be good to go by July, but if something comes up, we can push it to August.
Okay, if,
I'm flexible.
that works for me, I want it to work for you, what's best for you and what you think is the best.
I would say anytime before October.
I think the board just knowing your issues that your staff are having with the benefits is just beneficial to have that
Right.
information.
Because whether I do this in June or September, it's not gonna change anything until January.
Right.
Except for one thing.
It's gonna increase our numbers.
Well, no. I think though that if you push forward with looking for a decision on a new jail, let's say, and then you come back a month or two later and with this, somebody's gonna say, you snowballed us by.
Well, yeah, I mean,
You know what I'm saying?
I understand where you're coming from.
You didn't tell us all
but
the whole story at once.
There,
They're two separate issues.
Doesn't matter.
I don't necessarily think that
No twice.
one ties directly to another, you know what I mean?
Are you just talking about the cost or what?
Right.
Well, yeah, right. You say, well, you didn't tell us that this is what our costs were gonna be.
Well,
Two different places for costs.
what they're telling us though is what our costs are, because we're not retaining, you know.
I wasn't saying it was a good
Right.
argument, I was just saying it's
Right.
conceivable.
I understand where you're coming from with that.
I mean, obviously, putting them both on the same day is gonna
Putting them both
raise
in
the same
June,
issue.
putting them both in June, I think that would be too much.
I think any time between now and September, you'd be, whenever you could squeeze it in.
Okay. We'll shoot for July-ish, and if we wanna go to,
I'm just saying, I don't think we need to set a date, we'll just, when we got the information and you're ready for it, put it
Yeah,
out there.
whenever you, I flip that around and say, whenever you're ready to present it to the full board, I would encourage you to just put it on the agenda.
okay, let me ask you this, because this takes a long time to come up with these numbers, we put a lot of time into this. Is this committee okay with us keeping these slides the way they are? Instead of updating them up to July?
I think it's.
Yeah, I think you just make that distinction, look, we put this together and, you know, this is when it was conducive for us to.
Halfway
bring it.
through the year.
You know, yeah, you're halfway through the year.
Because the first time we presented this was in May, so that's what the numbers
I mean,
are.
you're showing the first half of the year.
Yeah.
Alright,
I mean, that could change due to snow, flu, whatever.
It's a trend.
Well, you just take the 6 months and divide it by 6 and add a month.
So having it sooner than later, will that change people's decision to leave or stay? If they see a light at the end of the tunnel, maybe.
so I don't,
See things changing, will that?
so I know our staff knows we're doing this, and I know they're appreciative of us doing this. I don't think if we push it back a month or a month and a half or 8 weeks, that it'll make a difference on whether or not staff leave, because I know we have staff that are basing their decision on whether to leave in the future, depending on what kind of contract they get. questions from the team? Okay, appreciate it. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, guys.
Yep, same here. None of you guys are on overtime tonight, are you?
Let's see, 1, 2,
Nobody's looking
3 salary guys, so you're okay.
Just darn it.
Expected to be a lot better having to wait so long.
Yeah.
You guys had asked about suggestions on benefits. One idea that's been brought up, and I think it's kind of a win-win for everybody. Our HSA, right? Like the gap of what the county funds versus what the federal government allows to be fully funded. If we had an option of selling the county back unused vacation, sick, or comp time to help fund our HSA, there's a lot of guys in our department that wind up burning a week or two of vacation time at the end of their year because they haven't used it. If they could, instead of burning that vacation time, sell it back to the county, it virtually costs the county not a single penny. It's just a matter of where you put the money. That would be an outstanding.
I'm one of those guys, I donated 20 hours of vacation last year.
Would be an outstanding way to not cost the county a fortune, but to improve our benefit money on overtime.
I like that idea, except if you're arguing that
Yes.
all the overtime and everything else is causing burnout,
But you're selling vacation time back. And you're
not
not taking it.
not taking the vacation.
They can't take it. They can't take it when we're understaffed.
There's not enough deputies.
They're not able to.
They can't take them.
Okay, so they can't. Right, it's not that I'm doing it.
It's because they can't take, because they're short-staffed, so they can't take a vacation pay because
Got it.
they're short-staffed.
It's
So
not a
taking a week off is just
It's not
not
a
possible. Right.
Okay. Well, then that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Alright, move on to the next item on the agenda, closed session.
Well, that was regarding this, I don't know if you guys wanna hear the exit surveys, all the exit survey information that previous jail dispatchers and patrol deputies have filled out, so then you can go into the closed session to discuss that. It's up to you guys.
I think it's good for us to hear the plan going forward.
It's not anyway.
Alright, that's where we will go, so I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make it.
Second. Alright, closed session. Consider financial, medical, social, or personal, historic, or disciplinary data to specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems or investigation of charges against specific persons except where Part 3 applies, which, if discussed in public, would likely have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations. To witness employee exit surveys pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851F.
Yes.
Yes, we are now in closed session. Alright, next item on the agenda. And just so everybody is aware, we moved the human resources number 6 to the end of the agenda. We're gonna take care of everything else first. Number 6 we will discuss after our last 2 closed sessions.
You people are precious.
Okay, so human resources report, we had 3 terms effective in May, and I'm reporting them, meaning that their last day was in May. So that doesn't mean that somebody gave me their notice in May, or gave us their notice in May and is terming, 6 weeks from now. That would mean that their term date is effective in May, so they left in May. That was, we had the highway commissioner, 1 jailer dispatcher, and 1 patrol deputy were our terms effective in May. We had 15 hires that started in May. The number is so high because we had a lot of our LTE people start for our seasonal help. So 7 of the 15 were LTE. We had 2 highway LTE workers start, 1 deputy in the clerk's office, 2 forestry interns had started with summer help, 1 LTE EMT, and then 1 person in tourism, so economic development and tourism, an LTE seasonal staff person for that position. We hired 4 on-call EMRs, so Tom was really happy about that, to help fill some of those surrounding communities to get another ambulance up and running. 1 patrol deputy started in May, 1 jailer dispatcher, 1 disability benefit specialist, so that's in the ADRC, and we had a social worker that started in May. Our current open positions in the sheriff's department, total we are down 4 jailer dispatchers, soon to be 5. We do have 2 that are starting soon meaning 1 next week and 1 in July. So that would leave us with 3 openings in our jailer dispatchers. 2 of them have to be females because of how your regulations are, right, with how many male females you need at a time. So 2 have to be females for that. 1 of the 3 openings has a conditional offer, and we're in the background check process with that person right now. In addition to being down 4, currently we have 2 jailers that are on FTO, so still in their training process. 1 will be completed this week and 1 in about 3 weeks. So then they can actually be counted on as a shift by themselves. Patrol deputies, we have 1 current opening and then also an investigator that we're not looking at filling at this time. Correct. Yeah. So 1 patrol deputy. And then in addition to that, we have 2 deputies that are in FTO. One of those that is in FTO is in the academy right now and is halfway through their FTO. And then another patrol deputy just started FTO, but does not need the academy. Highway department, we have a commissioner opening. We've had that posted for a month now, and we're still posting that just due to trying to get more candidates, more qualified candidates for that one. Highway operations manager, that is currently posted until 6/11. And then I'm happy to report that we offered a highway mechanic a position this week, and he did accept and is starting next week, so that one will be filled. HHS has 6 different openings. Recovery court coordinator is currently open, but we filled that with somebody starting June 10th. We have 2 social service worker openings, technically 1 now and one immediate opening, and then 1 is leaving in August, so that would still count as we need to fill 2 social services. We have no qualified applicants at this time, and that's been posted for 3 to 4 weeks already. In INA specialist, we have an accepted offer from an internal candidate, so that's an ADRC position, so that is starting June 24th, but then that opened a clerk 3 in HHS, so we have that posted until 6/17. An economic support specialist, that person is starting June 10th, and then our veteran service officer just gave notice, so we currently have that position posted until 6/16. So that's where we're at with all of our open positions. The only updates that I really have for you is the appointment of the recycling position into land conservation is still being looked into by land conservation, and they are having a special meeting regarding that on June 11th. Any HR questions for me? Do you want me to keep going up? Okay. Number 2, consider potential changes to policies regarding comp time. So after attending an HR conference, I had a few concerns regarding our comp time, how we pay out our comp time. So for those of you that aren't aware of this, our employees are allowed to accrue comp time off in lieu of overtime, up to a maximum of 40 hours on the basis of 1 and 1.5 hour of comp time for each hour of overtime worked. So our current policy is that comp time not used during the calendar year is carried over from year to year and is not cashed out unless the employee leaves the county. So then what the county does is if we need to pay out that comp time, the county extends the last day of employment for that person in order to pay out this accrued comp time. So all of the guides stated that any comp time used as leave time, when I'm talking about the guide, the WRS guidelines, because when people found out that this is how we're doing it, there was some concern. So the guide stated that any comp time used as leave time can be reported to WRS when it's used, even if it was, because essentially where we were a little concerned about originally is WRS says you have to report it in the year it was earned. However, if we're allowing employees to use that as leave time, you can then report it to the WRS when it's used. So technically, we would be following this, right? We would be following this right now, because the employee, when they use their comp time, they're using it as leave time, so they're using it as like PTO essentially, using their comp time up. The guide also states when comp time is not used though and paid out as cash, the payment and associated hours must be reported to the annual earnings during which the comp time when it was earned. So not used when it was earned. So that would be, if we paid it out as cash 2 years from now, we should be reporting it when it was earned and not when it was used. So WRS says a policy is not required that you pay this out in the same year as earned, but in order to avoid like any possible penalties, they suggest you do pay it out every year. However, looking into this, what we do, we're still technically using it as PTO time for them, or using it as leave time, because we are extending that last day of employment for them, and then making their last day of employment. So they have 40 hours of comp time, they leave, say they leave the last week in June, we extend their time out until July 2nd to use that comp time. So then legally we can report it in the time it was earned, because it's being used as leave time then. However, we just extended their last day of employment into another month, which is a whole other month of benefits that we now have to pay them. And, it was July, so our HSA was also funded during this time, so we'd be responsible for doing that as well. So that's one thing to kind of consider. My main concern, again, going back to the Fair Labor Standard Act, my main concern is the Fair Labor Standard Act does state that comp time must be used within 365 days of when it is earned. So the problem with us allowing employees to keep carrying over their comp time is it'd be a nightmare to even track when they used it. So it'd be a nightmare to try to track, like, okay, this comp time was earned, so when did you use this? 367 days ago or 364 days ago? So my recommendation, and what all other counties that I talked to at this conference, is that we pay out our comp time at the end of the year in order to avoid tracking that it's used within that 365 days from earning it, or potentially having to pay penalties, or extending insurance coverages, paying out HSAs, all of that, because we have to extend their last day. So that's where the policy that was in your packet comes into play. I made, this is just my recommendation to this, open to hearing anything, so I crossed off where it says comp time not used during the calendar year, I crossed off that it's carried over from year to year and cannot be cashed out. And so what I'm recommending is that comp time not used during the calendar year will be paid out to the employee on the last paycheck of that calendar year, unless arrangements are made to utilize the comp time before the end of the year. Comp time will not be paid out any other time unless the employee leaves employment with the county.
So can I just explain a little bit about the WRS time period reporting? So what this would mean is that as of, we run our payrolls semi-monthly. So December 1st through the 15th will be paid on usually it'll be the 25th, but it'll be a day or two earlier because of the holiday. So that's the last paycheck paid in the year. So for WRS reporting purposes, it's on a cash basis. So for WRS reporting purposes, the December 15th payroll is the last payroll of the year. So then everybody gets their new PTO dumping on January 1st. So there might be employees that have comp balances in their bank at December 15th that don't want it paid out because they plan on using it over the holidays. So that's why you have that exception in there, is that if they have made arrangements to use that time, we would allow them to not be paid that out, if that makes sense.
So Jeff, in your contract, do they still have the
Comp time?
40 hours?
48.
Or whatever?
And that gets paid out as well.
Yes, every year.
It does get paid out?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we had a 40-hour,
It's 40 hours on for the general employees.
Yeah.
And that's rolling, so like 48 hours for them, once they hit 48, even if they drop back to 40, they can't bring it back up. Ours is rolling, so if somebody drops, 40 uses 10, they can go back up to 40 max at any point in time.
but if they roll anything over to the next year, obviously they use what rolled over first before they use anything that they accumulate after the first of the year.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that you have a problem with it.
But what you're saying is they start a clean slate at the beginning of the year, which then you don't have to try to figure out all that. Which is fair enough.
I would guess that the probably employees would prefer to get paid out for that.
And what I would tell my employees is that, hey, we're a small department, pretty much our entire budget is wages. So, we really don't have it in the budget to pay out comp, so I prefer you use it by the end of the year and, obviously you'll get paid out for it, but if you don't use it by the end of the year, it's going to limit my ability to authorize you to work extra hours going forward because we just don't have it in the budget. And I think so, it'd be nice if we're going to make this change to do it now so that departments have time to plan for it and employees have time to plan, to get those balances down. Some departments, it wouldn't really matter. For example, highway, they booked that expense when that comp is earned for their road workers at least. So it really wouldn't be a fiscal impact if it had to get paid out, because it would just reduce that liability. And the big people that have those comp balances are our social workers, because they have the option to comp or get paid for their on-call hours and their on-call time when they do have to get called in. So, that's just gonna keep rolling. A lot of them have their banks at 40 hours, and they end up, they would like to comp, but they can't because they just can't use it fast enough. So I don't know that it would really impact the HHS budget all that much, aside from the initial payout.
What if you did, you're probably gonna tell me this is gonna be a nightmare for you, but what if you did a 50%?
You'd still run the same.
Because we
risk.
have a max on how many comp hours they can put in, right? As a benefit, I'm thinking of this, that's the only thing going out there, and shoot it down if you don't like it. You give them the opportunity to do 50 or 100%. Maybe some would want to go, well, I'm gonna put 50% in my comp time bank, and I wanna take 50% pay. That would help us then by not having to pay out 100% of it at the end of the
The
year.
risk we run is we have to then track to make sure when did they earn that comp time, and are they using it within 365 days? That'd be my
Cause
only
of that.
fear. So like, I know one employee that has been here for years and just doesn't get much comp time, so keep accruing just a little bit, and never has used it, so we would be against that they didn't use it in 365,
So theoretically, comp time was supposed to save us money by not paying overtime. And giving people time off.
We can pay that in.
So we won't be saving any money. But it's still an optional benefit for the employee to either use it as comp time or get paid off.
And I think we still would be saving money, because if they are using it in lieu of
Yes.
worked hours, then we are still saving money. So,
And we're still, even if you pay them out that,
Still saving.
you're still saving half time. You're not paying them time and a half for their overtime. They're comping
It's all
it.
straight.
Right.
Oh, they're comping it time and a half, right?
Yeah.
They work an
Yes,
hour of
well,
overtime, they get an hour and a half of comp time.
yes, but most of these employees work 38.75 hour weeks, so that first
It's
1.25
over 40,
hours
yes.
is that straight time, and then anything over 40 would be at the time. If that makes sense. I think another thing that would just need to be kind of addressed, and then we could do this as a department head, level with our, is that budget for overtime. So, you know, the departments are gonna say, hey, you know, are we gonna get more money in our budget to afford these comp payouts? And my answer would be no. You know, you're expected to work within your normal budget, and so maybe you need to have those conversations with your employees, like I did with mine, that, hey, if this goes through, then, you know, I would like you to use it, or it's going to limit your ability to earn comp in the future, or be able to work extra hours. So I think that would kind of need to be addressed. If, you know, you expect departments to be budgeting for this comp payout, or if they need to kind of eat it within their budget.
I think the county budgets for it, not the departments.
Well, you budget for your wages, you're expected to stay within your wage budget, within your individual department budgets. So like, the sheriff is held accountable for overtime in his budget.
But that's something that they do anticipate from year to year. I'm just saying that at the end of the year, whatever extra is, in the contract payout that comes out of the county's contingency fund rather than.
I would disagree with that, just because it's, you know, the departments are expected to stay within their budget, so. You know, and sometimes, you know, they're working those comp hours because there's a vacancy in their department, and so there is funding available within the wage budgets to pay out that comp time because they weren't paying wages for a certain period of time.
And then in the policy, you'll see that I struck out A. Jamie and I don't really know why that was in there. It kind of repeats itself from the policy up above, because it says nurses in lieu of overtime can improve comp time, which is what our policy is, so that's why that's struck out, it's just because it's just repetitive. Nurses follow the same comp time everybody else does.
Do we need to put something in here where HR, whoever you wanna put, needs to be notified of this by a certain date of the year?
If you're gonna,
If you're gonna
Pay
give
it out.
them the option of, yeah,
Like, if they don't wanna pay out.
well, however we're gonna do this, cause it says. Maybe like contact.
yeah, unless you're saying unless arrangements are made to utilize the comp time
Do they
before the
need
end of the year,
to
so
tell
do
us
they, is
by
there a due
like
date for
November 30th or something, so you're not like, I mean, last paycheck's December 15th.
Yeah, I think it would just be communicated with the December 15th payroll. When that payroll is turned in by those departments, they would say, hey, don't, you know, so-and-so doesn't want their comp balance paid out because they're planning on utilizing it on December 20th. You know, we would need and we could put together a form that an employee would fill out to request.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about it, and we're talking about it was put in place to save the town money. If we're extending their employment an extra week, it's now,
good policy.
right, it's now costing us money above and beyond what it would cost us just to pay it out.
And I understand why they did that, because by extending it, you're using it as leave time, so then you don't get WRS penalties, because if we just paid it out as cash, we'd have to pay penalties to WRS, because we'd have to go report it back when it was earned.
Right.
So I understand why they
Right.
did it,
But
why
I
they
just-
put it in place,
But I don't think that's a real good
yeah.
policy.
That's why, I mean, that's why I suggested to me the last option would be to pay it out at the end of the
If
year,
you're
but
still employees, you'd still be paying workers' comp, well, you don't, yeah.
Yes, they would be paying everything
Yeah, it's
out
more
for
than
that
that.
extra week.
Plus that, of course, everybody's gonna time their retirement with the HSA. So that's nobody retires in December.
Should,
Yeah.
you know, for department heads to keep track of that, would, I mean, if an individual so chooses,
mean, that's up to that's, any overtime or any extra hours worked is up to the discretion of the department head. But it's, in our policy, it says it's up to the employee whether they want to take that as payment or comp time. But you could argue that, like, well, if the, you know, they ask the department head, hey, can I work an extra 5 hours this week? And the department head might say, well, it depends if you are trying to earn comp or overtime, because, you know, we don't have overtime in our budget. But if you wanted to earn comp and take that time off later, then you could. So, yeah,
Right,
it's up to
so
the employee,
before,
but it's also
comp was
kind of
no
up to
big
the
deal, and
department
they
head.
don't, like, we'll worry about it when you retire or leave. Now they're gonna have to look at it. It's like you said, it's gonna be something that's gonna be fluid. To a degree.
So do we wanna address this? Do we wanna wait?
Are you asking us to approve it or just?
Yes,
review it?
that's.
It's an action item.
Yes.
Yes, it's an action item, so.
I'm okay.
I'm inclined to think that it's justified.
Well, as long as just to eliminate comp time altogether going
Well,
forward.
just don't come in with exit interviews saying, we quit because we couldn't carry.
I can't make any promises.
I mean, honestly, does it even pay to have comp time at all? Let the person get paid for their overtime, because in a lot of cases, you wait and take that lump check at the end of the year, it might bump you into a different payroll for that period, and then you just pay more taxes, depending on where they fall, right?
I think that's their problem.
Well, yeah, that's.
Yeah, but if
My only thing is, I think to some people in some departments, comp time is a benefit, especially if they're in their first couple years and they don't have a lot of PTO, and there is work to be done and the comp time is justified, then they use that almost as their PTO. And those are the people that are probably using it, you know, right away, that they're using it to.
So you feel there's justification to keep it for as a benefit? for some
Yeah, I feel like the employees would view as we're taking
Even if they,
something
even if
away.
they get additional withheld, when they file the taxes, spread out over the
Right.
year.
Yeah, cause I mean, it says in our policy that it's a choice of whether they want to get paid or earn that comp. So if they're earning that comp, it's because they wanna use it to
Right.
take extra time
But did
off.
we not
Kinda not
still have a policy of their being the maximum amount that they can accumulate?
40
You still
hours.
can't have more than 40 hours.
On the books at one time.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say it's a benefit for our employees, otherwise we wouldn't see anybody carrying comp time balances now, because they do have the option right now as it stands to get it paid as overtime instead of comp time, and there's people that are choosing comp time. So I think our employees do view it as a benefit.
But
Well, and
I'm
not
sure that
all
was
of
kind of the intent behind it.
Yeah, and a lot of that comp time that's earned is the social workers taking it in lieu of their on-call pay, so that wouldn't otherwise be overtime, it would still be overtime. But like, if they're on call, they get, on like Monday through Friday, they get 2 hours paid to be answering the phone, to be available, to come in an emergency. So that's just like a stipend that they get daily, and so they can choose to take that as 2 hours of comp or 2 hours of straight pay. So that's, I mean, of the, I did a calculation of what, you know, what it was at 12/15 of 23, and with burden, the benefits on it, it was about 29,000, but of that, $11,614 was related to HHS, and like 8,000 of that was just social workers alone.
So, motion to approve the change?
I'll move.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
So I'll take that to finance then. Financial. Okay, approve compensation for acting highway commissioner effective, June 3rd. So, at highway, we elected a highway commissioner that started June 3rd. They approved, and looking for it to go up the ladder here to personnel, step 1 of the commissioner scale at $38.79 per hour. This one was approved at an hourly rate instead of a salaried stipend, because this person that took this position is an hourly employee. So past practices of what we've done in the past is that, if an hourly employee is taking that position, allowed them to stay hourly at a different wage, at a higher wage, to fulfill those duties, where if it was somebody that was a salary person already taking a salary, pay them a stipend of a salary, since that was how they got paid. So that was what came from highway, was that. And 3879 is step 1 of the commissioner's scale.
Me too, I'll make that motion.
So we have a motion to approve the highway commissioner compensation effective June 3rd at step 1.
3879.
78.79.
And it is, I should note, just so that it is an hourly rate, so it would be, could be overtime, subject to overtime.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Don't come back humming.
Do you want to take a quick, do you want me to go on or leave?
I think we should probably wait.
Yeah.
Anybody else need a break?
I'm gonna grab a soda.
Break so.
What's that? So much for that.
You know.
Get you
I
for
got
five.
you.
I mean, that's the way it is.
Yeah, that is the way it is.
No, it was usually you slip money to the officer. It's, I like it when it's the other way around.
Not for me.
He'll want $1.50 back, I know. I think it's a little bit dirty. I think it's for every now and then.
That's just like, clean the silage out of it, I said.
I don't know how it gets there.
I say,
There's some sandwiches in my fridge.
she got a caterer around the committee, don't be giving me.
She's gonna come to Jill's baby shower today.
Thursday night, murder night.
All I have left is.
item is consider the change to the discipline and termination process, coming back to personnel, so I'm not sure what you guys heard me give the whole spiel at person, or at the board, so I won't do that again, so I'll just let you guys ask what questions you have or what modifications you wanna see. I think first, if you don't mind, Ashley wants to share a little bit of information. Dave, I know one of your questions, or one of your comments at the board level was that we made an administrative coordinator for, we had that for a reason, so the board could have some of that control still. So we did look at all the other counties who have administrative coordinators. There's 28 other counties in the state of Wisconsin who have administrative coordinators. And not, there's only, I'll let you speak.
Okay, so like Ashley said, 28 counties out of the 72 in Wisconsin have administrative coordinators. 8 counties have full-time administrative coordinators and 20 have part-time administrative coordinators. I reached out to all 28 counties. 21 of the 28 counties responded. And I asked them who handles their discipline and termination. So I broke this down into staff, fully committee, or a hybrid. So part of the committee chair, and staff are involved in the decision. I received 5 responses from the 8 counties that have full-time administrative coordinators. Of those 5 responses, we are the only county that lets our committee handle discipline and termination through the hearing process. The other 4 let their staff handle it. I received responses back from 15 of the administrative coordinator part-time counties.
I'll say part-time, it's with another
It's like a dual position.
Yeah.
Of those part-time counties, again, 1 county lets their committee handle discipline and termination through the hearing process. 9 of the counties let their staff handle that, and 5 are a hybrid. And what I mean by that is in Florence and Forest counties, the department head makes the decision on discipline and termination in conjunction with the personnel committee chair. Because they're only involving the chair, it's not a meeting of the body, so they do not have to go through that statutory hearing process. In Iron County, the department head makes decisions with terminations for general staff. Any department head discipline is still referred to the committee, which is what Ashley is proposing in her policy. In Lafayette County, the department head and the HR director, in consultation with the administrative coordinator, make those decisions. The caveat there is the administrative coordinator is also their board chair. So you still have an elected, right? So AC and board chair, so that's why that's a hybrid there. And then in Washburn County, again, the department head with the administrative coordinator can discipline general staff, and then department head discipline goes to the committee of jurisdiction and the personnel committee. So again, what Ashley is recommending in her policy. So we just wanted to do a little research because we heard that counties with administrative coordinators, the committees handle all of these things, and after further research, I have the policies here if you would like proof. That doesn't seem to be the case.
Is that what we said?
In the board meeting.
In the board meeting.
When I explained it, I was explaining it, the rationale behind Rusk County's decision to do it the way we do it. That was not necessarily saying that's the way everybody does it or should do it. So does anyone have a system where, because we have progressive discipline, where, say, the earlier steps of discipline would be handled by a direct supervisor, if not the department head? If it went past a certain step, then it would involve the department head. And then, in other words, the involvement of the committee or the committee chair would not be at the beginning of the discipline process, but at more towards the end of the discipline process. And I certainly am not interested, or at this point anyway, willing to support termination by staff at this point.
That would be more
like the hybrid model, is that what you're thinking, Dave?
Yeah.
Where it, you know, if you're going through, you know, steps, verbal, written, and suspension, or what are you looking at there before you would involve
And this
either
may
the
have-
personnel committee or the personnel chair?
This may have been just an informal process, but my recollection is that in the, when Andy Alvarado was here, that a lot of discipline, early steps in discipline were handled by, by the department head in consultation with the administrative coordinator, who was also, for practical purposes, the HR person.
Yes, that is the current policy.
And, but if it went to suspension or termination, it came to the committee.
Yep, that is the current policy.
And frankly, I'm comfortable with that process. If we wanted to detail it a little bit more as to where the steps would come in, and whether the personnel committee chair would be involved in some of those steps.
That would alleviate the need for that awful hearing.
I think he's saying put the personnel chair in some of the beginning steps and leave the hearing as it.
Oh, that would be
Right.
going backwards, so.
What's that?
No,
Are you saying to add the personnel chair or to take out the whole committee and just do the personnel chair instead of the whole committee?
For the earlier steps, or maybe the intermediate step, at this point, suspension and, termination, I think, needs to be
Suspension is considered.
committee, not staff.
We already have something in place right now in an emergency situation where, what is it? Administrative coordinator, HR and the personnel chair can make the decision
If
to
you had
suspend someone.
something like,
Right.
like theft or something like that, I think that's what you're talking
I
about.
think it was in a safety type hazardous.
You might do the administrative leave. prior to
Yeah, I can't remember.
suspension.
It came to the board, I don't remember what we had in that.
I'm gonna say, I don't think we need the personnel committee or the personnel chair involved in verbal or written warnings. I just, there's no sense.
Then you might as well be the supervisor.
Right, exactly, you know, that shouldn't be any of our involvement, at least at that level. If we wanna have the discussion that the personnel chair or the committee is involved in suspension or termination, we could have that conversation, and I'm open to that conversation, but I'm putting us in the middle of verbal and written warnings is just adding more process to this that is it allows for things to be muddied.
Well, you're not close enough to it.
Right,
Have any
none of us are anywhere near close enough to it to understand at that point.
Well, I think getting back to like what I was recommending and, you know, what I had put on there is, it wasn't to touch anything besides changing level 1 and getting rid of that, because level 1 and level 2 are saying like essentially the same thing. So mixing out level 1 and just reclassifying them into 4 levels instead of 5, so verbal, written, suspension. What we had as level 1, our employees should be doing, our supervisors should be doing that
Right.
anyway. That's informal conversations. They just had in there that all those had to be documented, which quite honestly, that's just setting us up for failure, because nobody can document every single conversation they have in passing with people. So that's why I nixed that, 'cause it doesn't need to be in our formal policy. So then doing level 1 verbal, level 2 written, level 3 suspension, and then the big change was to termination. So I wasn't asking for any changes for level 1, 2, or 3, you know, just for that termination. Again, because that hearing, the length of time it takes, I think I've explained a lot, you know, it's hard to convey to everybody the equal story of what happens, the day-to-day operations of everything. And if you're entrusting into, you know, your department head, your administrative coordinator, and your human resources to make that decision, that is what is best for the employee, what happens in all other counties but one in the state as well.
And bringing an additional 6 people into the termination of an employee liability, I think only opens us up for more liability. Those are supposed to remain closed sessions, do they? I don't know. And I think it's also a bit humiliating to the employee to have to stand there. Oftentimes they are emotional and have all of these people staring at them when they are being terminated.
I would agree on that point.
Mr. Chair, can I speak, please? Yes. We just went through a termination, with an employee. We went through our steps and made the termination of the employee with just HR and my staff. It went very smoothly. The person was very understanding of the reasonings and that of it, and it stays within our office of what we don't. I don't think it needs to, go further. I mean, you place people in charge of these people, every day. I think if it's something very serious, it needs to go forward with that, but on a day-to-day, it went very well for us, and that's how our department has done it pretty much ever, so.
Hi, Tom.
Ever had one that didn't go that well?
I don't know that we've ever had to walk somebody out, I mean.
Did we have one?
We've been sued, absolutely, but it wasn't, I don't know that it was over the way they were terminated, it was other underlying situations.
Yes. If I could ask a question, no names, no departments. The last general employee that was terminated by this county, how long did that process take?
It took several weeks because we had to coordinate schedules, notice a meeting, give the employee her due notice. So she has the right to bring legal representation with her, so you have to give enough notice to her.
So was that employee on admin leave during that period?
She was not.
She was still working?
Yes.
So you're paying an employee that you know you're gonna terminate for no reason. Ours took 1 day. 1 day and the termination was over. And very few resources were wasted.
What I've witnessed so far being on this committee is some of these get really drug out, and I think they end up costing the county a lot of unnecessary expenses. I mean, you don't, if you're in the private sector, you have your HR involved, your department head, or the owner. If you have a board of directors, you don't call the board of directors in to fire someone. It's done. I think we're muddying this down with the current process we have in place. And I felt, and I've been sitting at this table and witnessed a few of them, and I feel the individual feels very uncomfortable. They're still gonna have a grievance process to come through. If they so choose, they can come back. But yeah, I've seen some of these take a long time, and then you're going in for a special meeting, and I don't know, it just seemed like a lot of wasted resources.
I think we're placing too much power in the hands of too few people.
That's why you hired them.
I think you should trust the people you put in those positions.
That's what I'm saying, that's why you hired those people. And then you say, well, we don't trust your judgment. We need outside influences to make sure that you're doing the right thing. When if you hired the right person, you don't have to worry about them doing the right thing. If they're not doing the right thing, they should be the one gone.
If we didn't have HR or something, maybe, you know, I can
Well,
see
you'd have
that point, but we have
You'd have
brought
that.
HR on board for, I felt, part of this, to deal with some of this stuff.
Well, and you have to have them. I mean, the work situations are complex, and we're not HR professionals.
Right.
So you have, I mean,
To keep up
part of
with
their
it.
job is to keep you out of the courthouse.
I would really not like if someone came into my business and said, we're gonna decide who you're gonna hire and fire, because that would make me happy.
I think the steps
If
are.
that body was your employer,
Too many people.
that's a different situation, is it not? We're not talking about somebody coming in and terminating your employee, we're talking about the department head and the administrative coordinator and the HR manager's employer overseeing the way they administer.
I mean, I know what my employees do day to day.
Yeah.
Somebody who is never in my building wouldn't have a clue, and, you know, but these cute little people talking nice and being friendly, that's not how they are on their day-to-day thing. I think we don't get that clear picture of
The average person that works for the private sector, if they can walk into work tomorrow, and your boss can tell you, or whoever's in charge of that, and say, you know, your performance hasn't been where it should be. They don't need to show you anything to prove that that wasn't there. They can just walk you out the door. There's no grievance process. The only avenue you have is go hire a lawyer. Because HR is not gonna help you out at all. At least the county has a grievance process. You can come back and say, I don't feel I was treated correctly.
If I was gonna be let go, I would want that.
Are you asking us just to approve the process?
To approve this, yeah.
The disciplinary stages, that's all you're asking, right?
Anything in red,
Yeah,
because
what's red?
termination process
Yeah.
too.
The stages and then the changes to, instead of, as it's currently written, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, as it's currently written, when we get to stages 3 and now 4, the personnel committee would be involved in those currently, correct?
As the policy writes,
As a
right?
yes,
Not 3, 4.
okay, so,
So 3 is the supervisor in conjunction with the human resources manager.
okay, so when we get to step 4, termination, the personnel committee is currently involved in that process through a hearing. What they're asking is to change that, and the personnel committee would not be involved in that,
Except for
except for department head.
Well, those appointed in the 2-119, which is mostly department heads, I think. Was there 1 or 2 other positions?
Like the veteran service officer, the public health officer.
Sure. Add one more thing.
Yes.
These are obviously humans that work for us.
Right.
They're obviously humans that were terminated. I don't know that we've done a termination where the person hasn't been extremely emotional in his office. But that person is emotional in front of people that he knows and works with every day. I think to humanize this termination process, it would dehumanize that person as they're being extremely emotional in front of 5 or 6 or 7 people that don't even know who you are. So to make the termination process easier for that employee that didn't cut it for whatever reason that may be, I think it'd be easier if they were terminated by a very smaller group of people or people that they have dealt with on a constant basis. Because that would've been hard, our last termination, for that employee to come in here and put him wherever you guys put him, in front of faces that he has never seen before and they have never seen him. Rather that it was a tight-knit little circle. He knew all of us, and we explained to him as professionally as we could that it's not working. Did he get emotional? Yeah, but at least it was contained to just his office. And we didn't allow him to leave until he was able to gather himself.
And I think that was Mike's point.
That's like we're stoning him to death.
Right, and we're not necessarily as close to that as.
You need some minimum
One
knowledge about the
feature
process.
of the current process is that they have the right to be represented in that meeting, correct? If you proceed with the termination, they can have an attorney represent them in that hearing, correct?
Yep.
They don't get that if you do a termination, right?
To be honest,
They can't be represented by counsel if they're being terminated by the
they would go through the
coordinator and
grievance
the
process,
HR person and
they can do
the.
all that with the grievance process.
They can do that through the agreements, then they bring an attorney if they so wish.
But you're not saving any time and process unless that person chooses to challenge the wrongful termination, right?
If they challenge it, then we wouldn't save any time.
Right.
But if they don't,
You're saving the time that it takes to even term them in the first place. The last thing I wanna say really quick is that I think one of the biggest frustrations that I have, and I don't know how to make you understand this unless I give a specific example, is that it's so hard to convey the full story to you guys. We are here working every day with these employees for their whole shift, and it's so hard to come to a meeting, and I spend hours, just that one term that I did, spent hours and hours trying to gather, okay, what exactly do I need to gather to make sure, and that one was a cut and dry, the person wasn't showing up for work. That was so cut and dry of what needed to happen, but something else, you come up with documentation that's this thick, and now have to present to you guys because the personnel committee is the one that's making the decision. But it's been going on for how many months, and I'm trying to convey to you guys in one meeting every single detail that has gone on with this employee. But you guys aren't the one that is there every day seeing all this, so I get one chance to convey the whole entire story to you guys, and that is it. And then obviously somebody is upset, so what story are they conveying? And again, how long would have it taken to convey to this committee everything that we had documented with that employee?
Oh, hours and hours and hours,
But I
if not
can't
multiple
sit
meetings.
here for hours and hours and days to convey all this to you, so I'm stuck trying to be the best case I can, which to give to you guys to make you understand on why, and that is so hard, especially when it has been proven that with terminations in the past, these employees know it comes to the board. We're a small community. A lot of these people know these board members. And I've been told by how many board members with some of these in the past, and I know this has happened, is, well, I got a call from this person already because they know this hearing is happening and they are saying this. So then you guys are coming in with preconceived notions, not even knowing the story, thinking that this is the story, and then we're trying to convey the day-to-day of all the documentation that we have. Honestly, it puts us at a way bigger liability risk.
Plus, we ask all the wrong questions.
Sometimes.
well, and honestly,
We ask all the wrong questions.
well, we do, we're not trained to deal with this on a daily basis.
Well, we're not trained, we don't have the knowledge. I get this a lot of times on the school board members wanna delve into management issues. Well, it's not our role. We hire people to do that. We're not running the school. If there's someone that shouldn't be there, just
Well, it seems to
make
me,
them not be there.
you know,
And I get what you're saying, Dave, but that goes back to, again, to me, to a level of trusting the people that we hired to do the job we hired them to do, and then now we put 5 other people in that mix that don't know what the hell's going on.
of course, that means that if we trust those people, that they would trust us
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
to follow their reasoning and recommendations if we agree with their reasoning and recommendations.
yeah, if they've done their due diligence, then they come to us and say, or we understand that they have an individual that is in the wrong job. Trust that they did their work.
I mean, I certainly don't think it would
Because if
make sense to me that we would give that authority to someone simply because it makes it easier.
you give it to them because they're a competent person. To me, if we tell sheriff that, you have the right to hire and fire, make sure you check in with HR and legal counsel if you need to check in with legal counsel, and then they say this is a person that, no longer needs to be here, and we go, well, we should have a committee meeting about that. I don't think that conveys any trust.
And I can tell you, when you have to let someone go, it is not a good day for me.
The what?
It's probably one of the worst days for me, to have to end someone's.
Oh, when I was not in a in a management position, senior management position, I lost sleep, knowing the next day I was gonna have to whack somebody. It's not a pleasant task.
To their point, okay, so we had something we discussed earlier today. You guys weren't here and saw what I saw.
Exactly.
And if I was in your shoes, I don't know if I believe one darn word that I said. You know what I'm saying though? You weren't there to witness it.
Right.
And they're in the same boat, they're
Yeah.
there to bring it to us, like you said, and get that same, you weren't there. I mean, we're seeing things on paper, but we weren't there to read the body language or hear maybe the
Or some
tone of
other
someone's voice, whatever. it
Tone
may be.
that may have been inappropriate
Yeah.
at an earlier time.
I get both sides of it, but I hate seeing things get drawn out, and drug out in the termination process. When it should just be ended for the betterment of both parties.
So how do we want to proceed?
This was approved by this committee once, right? And went to county court. But then what was the motion we made?
To bring it back here, cause the current.
That was the motion last
Was
county
approved
court.
by the committee?
Previous committee.
Yes.
Previous committee, this was approved.
Not this committee, a
Not
previous
this committee,
personnel committee.
Previous
the
personnel.
prior personnel committee.
And that's why it came back, cause
That's why it
I
came
think
back.
Mr. Undershoots, you wanted the current personnel committee to hear it, which I was not trying to do facetiously, but yes.
No, it was just passed at a bad timeline. when
I think it was
we
past the
changed it.
last
Meeting,
personnel committee.
April.
Mhm.
Yeah, we had one the first
And I
week
didn't
in
put it
April.
on May's agenda because I didn't want the new board to hear it.
I'll move the approve it as written.
So I have a motion to approve as written and forward to the county board.
I move that we approve as written and forward to the county board.
Do I have a second?
Ask for a roll call vote.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Willingham has asked for a roll call vote. Clerk will call the roll.
Yes.
Mr. Willingham. Mr. Myers
Yes.
and Mr.
No.
Next up is, recommendations for work from home policy, no work from home policy. So, Mr. Meyer, I was not quite sure what you wanted to see in my no work from home policy, so I did one, and please don't yell at me for bending the rules.
We had a good one today. Sorry if I
I gave options.
By me.
Stop it,
Worried about what it would be like if you weren't.
Wow.
You've never seen me in that.
So I guess what I'll first ask is, did you guys have any time to review this before? I don't know that I want to read all of it. But I don't want, I guess, first off, can I just explain before going into depth what the three options are? So the first option would be your true work from home policy, so allowing, essentially some sort of regular practices and job duties to be performed at home, and I can go back into details. Right in the policy purpose is option one and option two, where we would essentially, to avoid it going out of hand, where, hey, some people are gonna start working remotely all the time, it would allow eligible employees up to 2 days per week would be like option one, and option two would give the authority to the supervisor to determine the number of days per week per payroll period that the employee would be allowed to telecommute. So that's kind of where that is, and then it goes into the eligibility, and then it goes into, the expectations when you're telecommuting, your equipment, your confidentiality, your travel expenses, liability, how you're going to request to do that, and then emergency situations, followed by the request form and the agreement. So that option A is like your full work from home policy. Option B, the policy purpose, this states that, under most circumstances, Rusk County would not allow participating in any type of telecommuting. Regular remote work, which provides a schedule of days and times when employees would be allowed to work from home, is not allowed, but I had this with 2 exceptions, so essentially saying no, so this would be the no telecommuting policy, option B. The 2 exceptions would be situational telecommuting, which would be approved for circumstances such as inclement weather, courthouse closure, unanticipated illness, injury, or recovery from illness in which the employee is still able to fulfill their job duties. And these would be approved on an as-needed basis only, with the expectation that ongoing continuance is not allowed. Then it goes to say that situational telecommuting would be for the duration of 4 weeks or less, and it could be extended under special circumstances as approved by the Personnel Committee through HR. And then the second exception to that would be intermittent telecommuting, which would be approved, for a particular circumstance, again, after approval by the immediate supervisor, department head, HR. The situation should be on a very limited as-needed basis and shall not exceed more than 2 days of telecommuting per week for a maximum duration of 6 weeks. And it may be extended under special circumstances as approved by personnel. And then it goes into the same exact information as that first policy for eligibility, expectations, equipment, confidentiality, travel expenses, liability request, the same thing. And then followed by, the request form is just slightly different because you would have to request if you're doing situational or intermittent, and then what's your anticipated start and end dates. Reminder, this is your maximum that you can allow. And then the third one is essentially just, it's on your very back page, would just be in addition to the handbook, saying that employees of Rusk County are not allowed to participate in any type of telecommuting activities. Regular remote work, which provides a scheduled days and times, is not allowed, and then situational and intermittent telecommuting is also not allowed. So that would be your strict, nothing is allowed. That one's for you, Joe. Mr. Meyer. But really, I didn't know what you wanted to, what anybody wanted to see in the true no work from home, which is why I did that B option. Are we looking for something that maybe we allow under certain circumstances, that would be few and far between? Or are we strictly not allowing anything? And then, like I said, that option A would be more of a, depending on the department head, that they could allow, up to 2 days per week or something. And where I would think that would be at all appropriate would be a couple departments in our HHS.
Well, if I remember correctly, you recommended when we started this conversation, we should have one or the other. We should have something,
The
correct?
problem that Ashley has told me and that other people have brought to me is that it gets referenced a lot, well, we have nothing. So I think when I had told you guys that it is happening right now, that was the concern. Well, why is it allowed to happen right now? Our response is, well, we don't have any sort of policy on it. So we aren't really able to tell employees no because we have no policy on it.
Why can't you? There's no policy saying you can work from home,
Well,
so you can't work from home.
The policy just states that the handbook states that you have
Black,
to.
white, no gray.
Well, the policy technically states that you just have to get your work done, and so they are getting their work done.
But if we don't have a work from home policy, then
How can you work from home?
if anybody's working from home and the people that are supposed to be telling them that we don't have a work from home policy aren't telling them that we don't have a work from home policy, why not?
Well, you better be careful here, him and I are starting to agree here right now.
I know, it's.
That don't happen very often.
That happens after 4 hours, Jim.
Bad thing.
When we reach the 4-hour threshold, then we agree.
Can I be dismissed, please?
So you got 8 minutes.
Exactly. Look, guys,
So the question I have is if people have light duty, or you're gonna start having people have to have somebody else doing your job, having overtime, wouldn't it be better to have them be able to be at home and doing more duty at home or doing stuff from home? And as far as
That's a situational provision, not a,
that is part of
not
what
a-
is on here though.
not a blanket policy.
No,
But if we don't have a
part of it, you don't have
Work from
anything.
home policy now, what happens if I break my leg and I can't come to work?
Yeah, we're making them use their PTO or extended leave bank.
And
Well,
even though
not
they're
gonna
capable of
paid.
doing their job from home.
Yeah, cause all I do is sit at a computer, but I
Correct.
can't come to work.
There's
Absolutely.
been circumstances that have come from this committee where we've given someone permission to work from home. On those types of things.
But also, you know, I think you had said, well, it isn't safe, it isn't, you know, what, anybody can see that, but I don't think that's a thing. I think you have all these people that are doing medical record from home. That's pretty they do it
Correct.
from home all the time, and
What
They-
policies, what I said was, what policies do you have in place to protect that information? So,
what
so
what
those,
do you guys have
those
in
people who are
place?
working,
We're CGIS compliant, so there's steps that we have that no one can access our records. And it's this thing right here.
They have their computers at home, and their county computers, and they're able to do their stuff, and you can't get in and out of it.
I do work from home all the time.
right, but that was because we have no policy right now, we have no actual knowledge of what actual safeguards are in place when they're working from home.
That's what I'm
So
saying, I
if we
thought it was
put-
just shut down, no, we're not gonna do it.
So some
because
guy
that's a reason.
No,
We do have
Guy
two
in
factor.
Cheyenne, Wyoming,
right,
in his basement can't access that computer.
No.
it just came
But
out.
family members, neighbors,
No,
brothers and sisters,
that shuts down
Other
in about
people
10
coming in?
seconds. If he's not on his computer, it's shut down, I mean, I can't get into it. He can't even print from our printers
So if he-
because of the
so if he's
firewalls.
using it, you could look over his
Look
shoulder,
over his
right?
shoulder.
And I'm not saying you would, or that you ever have, but it's still a possibility.
Well, it is,
You
but
might want to be
if you're working from home and it's a plus for you, I'm sure you're going to be more cautious. You work from home, you don't let people look in your computer or look over your shoulder.
Because the requirements from the individual I work for states very clearly, if I'm not at that computer, nobody's allowed in that room.
Same difference. I mean, I
So-
think if you have the right policy, it would be a
I-
plus to our county.
I'm personally in favor of a combination, a situational work from home policy as opposed to a no work from home policy. Because I think we need to, you know, we need to offer our employees who are able to do that option. I mean, a full,
Right, and see what happens.
a full work from home policy, if we did that,
Nobody said full.
would be what I'm saying, not.
Option A.
Jim is
Option
sitting
A.
between us. It's like, well,
Option A,
Us calm down over there.
option A is the one that, you know, if we went with option A, I think it would have to be the second portion where the supervisor has, you know.
Yeah,
Why don't
kind
we
of
just go with option C and add a line that says where the department head can bring it to the personnel committee on a case-by-case basis, and start it that way.
Well, we just
But
have,
a lot of times we don't have, I mean, I'll just be fair, we don't have time for that, cause a lot of the stuff that, if you look option B in that situational telecommuting would be like, for our employee that legit really did break their leg, something like that.
They need the first 2 weeks off to heal anyhow, by then we'll have a meeting.
so my comment on that would be then, we just passed a policy that says we're going to let our employees take care of terminations and we're not gonna get involved in that. But now you wanna get involved in work from home policy having to come to the committee.
Well, not really, I prefer the original option C that's on here right now. I'm just trying to meet in the middle.
I'm just saying, if Jeff broke his leg and he couldn't work from home in the first 2 weeks, he needs to work.
That's a personal problem for Sheriff Wallace.
I'm pretty sure it's the same way your house.
Jeff, you're going to sleep with one eye open here, just saying.
I'm so glad she's sitting there.
I got a basement.
Not with a broken leg, you don't.
I'll get down, but it won't get back up.
So here's a concern that I have. That ultimately, whether someone is permitted to work from home and how much is going to be an individual and case-by-case basis.
Correct, that's why I support a situational policy.
So the concern that I have is, there's no question in my mind that within a very short period of time, this committee, probably, will be facing someone saying, they let so-and-so do it, but they're not letting me do it. Somebody's gonna say, we're not administrating the policy in a fair and just manner. Then we have to have about 2 volumes of rules. So, you have an employee working from home. Can they work from home and take care of their children at the same time?
With all due
Are they
respect.
allowed to do that?
Did you read this or
Are
did
they allowed to do that?
No, that's in here, so
Yeah,
no.
it's in here that's not.
So that's not allowed, but I mean, can they work from home and their children be home?
Yeah, I mean, I would say what's in the policy is that you can't be
So how do we
providing
know
dependent
that
care.
they are or aren't taking home care of their children?
Back to the word trust.
Huh?
I said, I think we're coming back to the word trust again.
I think your productivity is gonna show whether you're actually working or you're taking care of your kids, because if you're home taking care of kids, you ain't getting shit done. I'm serious, I got 3 grandkids at my
I
house.
know, but we don't let people bring their kids to work with them. Except I bring
My
their kids to work.
I know I understand where Dave's coming from, because my policy for me working from home is, this is what needs to be done this week. As long as it's done this week, they don't care when I do it.
You stay up all night.
Right, I could stay up all night, I could work the first 3 days of the week, get everything done, and not work the rest of the week. But again, we're talking about 2 completely different scenarios here. We're talking about
How many
a
weeks?
private sector job as opposed to a working for the county where we have to provide for. I'm in,
With set hours for services.
and again, I'm in favor of the situational policy, because I see what benefit that offers our employees. I can see that.
I do have a caveat in there to your, Dave, to your thing too about, like the management and employees being upset. I do have, any decision to approve, deny, or discontinue a telecommuting agreement is not discipline and is not subject to the grievance process. Telecommuting is a management decision and may be terminated by an employee's department head and or HR at any time for any business-related reason.
So if you do that, then they can't grieve it. If you,
Well, they can't grieve it because it's not a discipline.
no, if you give them permission and then you take it away, that's not grievable?
Correct. But it's not a discipline, so the grievance.
It's a change in work conditions.
Yeah, but they're not,
But that's not
they're not a
reasonable.
bargaining unit.
It isn't
No.
like you're
Right.
disciplining them for not doing.
They're not a bargaining unit
coming
for
back to
mandatory
work.
subjects of bargaining or wages, hours, and working conditions. So they don't have they can't grieve
If
anything.
you're taking away the right to work from home because they're not being productive, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that,
You're just saying you're gonna do your job in here so you can be
isn't that
supervised, isn't it a
indirectly
disciplinary
a
thing?
discipline?
No,
But a written warning technically isn't a discipline either. Are you aware of that? So even if we were to rate somebody up, a written warning for a discipline, so say we were to, somebody's working from home, we got performance issues, we write them up and tell them they can't, that's not aggrievable according to the state statutes and our policy. The only grievable defenses are termination.
you're signing into an agreement that, this can be given or taken at any time. It isn't something that is, I'm changing your job description now. It's just where you're going to your computer.
Could you grab some? Yeah, I just have a quick bit, so this goes back to, recruitment and retention. Actually, when I was putting together my presentation, I reached out to Highway and HHS because they're the other 2 large entities in Rusk County. So just in HHS alone in the last 3 years, Nicole Nelson left employment at Rusk County because of wage and the inability to work remote.
Deputy, I'm gonna ask you, don't use names.
Sorry. Another one went to Hayward because of wage and remote, inability to work remote. Another one went to Chippewa County because of wage and inability to work remote. this is just in the last 3 years, another employee went to Barron because of wage and inability to work remote. Another employee went to Barron because of wage and inability to work remote. Another employee went to the state because of wage and inability to work remote. Another employee went to Eau Claire because of wage and inability to work remote. So there's 7 in the last 3 years just from HHS. And the inability to work remote was one of the factors.
I think a hybrid policy of this.
Good place to start.
This, and I think saying no work from home is, if you're gonna say no work from home and then, but we'll make exceptions, we might as well go with a conditional policy where they can, under certain circumstances, we're gonna allow work from home. I don't see it coming back to the personnel committee to approve someone working from home. It is, again, we have no, we're not close enough to that situation to make that determination.
If they don't have any customer facing job at all,
Right.
I do have a stipulation in there too that, it is up to the department head to make sure the office coverage is covered, that, there will be no decreases to like the services offered to the public if they were allowed, all of that kind of stuff.
And it also says in there that we realize that not all jobs allow you to be able to work from home. That's just the nature of some of the positions here. You can't have somebody filling potholes working from home.
What?
That's what you're gonna hear.
Kinda hard to
That's
fill a
what- that's-
pothole when you're in your living
That's what
room.
you're gonna hear, you're gonna have someone that's gonna come in and go, well, why can't I? Like,
Because we've articulated it in the policy that's just one of those positions that unfortunately doesn't have that option.
Do we have any
But
employees?
Mr. Meyer, the beauty is that we have open positions, so I will gladly give them those open positions to apply for, which they maybe could work from home in those other positions.
there you go, that's thinking outside the box.
Still didn't work for me. So.
Dave agrees with you now.
Yeah, you caught him in a moment of weakness. It's past the 4 hours, he's starting to pull. I'm just catching my second. Anyhow, so how many employees right now, being we don't have a no work from home policy, are working from home? No names, no departments.
But, I mean, if I
Your
have to work,
salary, you don't count.
well, if I work from home, I use PTO, and then.
Wow.
Wow.
Gosh.
Well, all I mean, honestly,
That's harsh.
if you're in a salary type position, like, I didn't mean any offense by that.
But we don't have a policy for that.
But you work at home. I mean, you don't have a 40-hour work week if you have other things to do, which it sucks, but that's the way it is.
That doesn't count towards our time.
No.
When we work from home, we don't put that on our timesheet, that we don't count that towards our 38.7.
I don't on mine either.
Right, but what I'm saying is, when we're working from home, that's extra for us, always.
And it is on mine too, and I'm salaried.
Right. Yeah, how's that feel?
Are you working?
It is
from
what it
home?
is.
Are you working from home?
I knew what it was when I took it.
Ordinary business hours?
No, I'm always working from home at night and on the weekends, but Jamie's,
That's,
I have during ordinary business
Yeah.
hours if I have
That's
a
not a work
emergency
from
and I
home
have to, get on for a call or something and I just take PTO for that day and, but there's still certain like calls that can't be rescheduled or meetings and it is what it is, but, we really don't have a policy on it. I know other department heads do sometimes work from home and count that towards it.
I think the problem we're running into is we have employees who are working from home and we have no policy at all.
I was gonna say a dozen to answer that question.
We have a dozen employees working from home right now. So how did that happen?
we don't have non-exempt employees working from home. Working outside their normal schedule at home?
No, not outside their normal schedule.
Well, as the job would need it, like sometimes I do have to remote in to, just help some dispatch with something. The social workers are working.
Okay, yeah, that would be okay.
How did we get to a dozen? Last time I knew there was one.
I've only been here 4 months, cause I've heard,
So in 2 months' time,
No, not that any got added, it's just since this is more of a topic now on these agenda items, department heads have come forward to me saying, well, I have an employee that has been working from home occasionally for the last years. You know, there's nobody new that has been added to my knowledge, I don't know if you've heard of that.
we're just keeping a tally now.
Since they're talking about this more.
Well,
If you want me to be completely honest, what the conversations that have happened with me is, okay, you know, the motion was made to do a no work from home policy, and what I've had people say is, what are we literally gonna do with some of these employees that might situationally remote work, like, are we firing them then if we make this no work?
I don't think there's any disagreement that if somebody breaks a leg or gets run over by a bus, or we have 8 feet of snow, that a situational allowance would be, I don't think anybody's opposed to that.
But we have no
But a
policy.
regular schedule of.
That's, right, that's why I said I support the situational policy. Of the 3 options we have here, I support the situational policy where the department head can say, in this situation, I will allow this employee to work from home for this day. Well, yeah, we're not saying forever, we're not saying full-time work from home, we're not saying that their entire job is work from home. What we're saying is, the situation has arisen, they need 3 days to be able to work from home.
Are you saying only is based on situational?
Yes.
So what about the people that are doing it now, do they haul their butt back in to work?
They're doing it on a very intermittent basis,
Right.
it's not like some people Mondays and Fridays.
We have no.
It wouldn't follow this policy, I can tell you, because the policy, the way I wrote it, because I figured you guys wouldn't want it to be open-ended, because then that would be option A then, of letting the supervisor determine how often and how frequently. So I wrote policy B as in like, okay, intermittent is a max of 6 weeks, and people are definitely doing that, yes, more than 6 weeks. It might be like at 1 day every other week, always, you know, and that one,
Are there full-time work from home people?
you know, like where they work from home full-time.
Or do we have any that are doing that? Oh, okay.
So I read an article not long ago, and there were 3 things that they brought up. One was that, this came from supervisory personnel, that it was harder to manage personnel issues because of the fact that, because of remote work, all the staff wasn't together on the same day a lot. That it interfered with, you know, just interpersonal relationships, people not knowing each other as well as they would if they were working together on a regular basis. The other point that struck me was the fact that something like, I mean, this is, and maybe you can control this, maybe you can't. 60% of the people at that time that were working from home admitted that at least occasionally they were not working when they were working from home. Whether this was before.
It happens when they come in.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure there's people that aren't working when they're at
Right,
work. too.
exactly.
I understand that.
The running joke when you know, I worked at Geldwin in the summers, and the running joke was how many people work there? I said, well, about 50%.
Exactly.
But I
You
mean,
know,
this included a whole list of things that they admitted they were doing when they were supposed to be working.
But the whole thing comes back down to productivity. If you have
That
an
you can track.
expectation of this amount of work getting done, whether you sit
And
in this office and do it.
A lot
or
of
at
our
home.
work is not so easily measured.
But in HHS, it definitely
Right,
is.
and I think most of our employees who are working from home, correct me if I'm wrong, are from HHS, the HHS department, correct?
I don't know.
I mean, so half of them And,
Well, you gotta keep asking questions, cause they don't wanna give it
yeah,
up.
I'm seeing that.
They don't wanna give it up right now.
But what I will ask, are you aware of any performance issues?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Have you been made aware of complaints about departments not being productive? People not getting
could you
services?
tell me?
No, we're not deflecting here, we're gonna continue
She said
down
half,
this.
she
Yeah.
answered.
We just got done
Here's a phrase I learned
committee that we
years
should
ago.
know about those things.
When
We're not supposed to know about performance issues, you're gonna handle that, so
Well,
how
and
would we
agreed.
know?
So if the department
Well, I
head
haven't been
is
made aware
aware
of
of
those
performance issues, it's all in it's all in here. It is an all-encompassing policy. So if the department head feels that there are performance issues with that person, they will never approve that person working from home. And then she also has final say. So if she's like, hang on now, we talked a month ago that this person isn't getting their work done, why are you allowing them to work from home? Then she's the
So-
auditor, kind of.
So where are the other half then, if they're not from HHS?
General government.
So.
Nah, that's not specific enough.
the whole place is general government.
Exactly.
Can I ask why it matters?
Well, I'm just wondering now because there's a little more to the story, and I just like
You know the
I'd
end
like
of
the
the
full
story?
picture. That's all.
I don't know
I
what the
feel like
full
you're
picture
saying
is, though.
something though.
No, I'm not.
I
That's
feel like
not,
you know the answer you want.
No,
I haven't said anything to him. No, I have not.
Okay.
no. I honestly,
you
I
can
know.
read it on
Honestly, I
Steve's
don't
face.
know. Jim may know. I do not. That's why I'm asking. I'm honestly asking.
I just don't do his due diligence. If you don't ask the right questions, it's not my problem.
So I think it would be relevant to ask the question, if we were to approve a work from home policy, would you take advantage of that policy?
Me personally, no, I can't. I can't do my job from home efficiently.
I would say the same about mine.
Would I take advantage of it? No. I mean, I work from home now. At
I
night.
don't say working at home. I'm talking about from 8 to 4 or whatever, you would take your computer home and do your HR work at home.
You can't have HR working from home.
I will tell you where I used to work, we allowed situational, and there was a time that my husband was in the hospital for many days, and I got a crap ton of work done because I was allowed to remotely work in the hospital, and I didn't have any interruptions, and, so that was the only time I took advantage of that, or inclement weather, I guess, maybe,
And I- And
some
I
of those
would certainly-
situations like that.
I would certainly think that would be a benefit to your employer, to not have you gone for a month or whatever,
Yeah.
or whatever, so that. But as a regular practice,
No.
you wouldn't be.
I don't feel I could as HR, that would be the right thing to do.
Mr. Chairman, a lot of the discussion we've heard about employee retention seems to be that, there's benefits, and Mr. Grassman pointed out, there's people that have left other counties because of, work from home policies. This is like a free benefit that you can give somebody if they can work, and I probably wouldn't say 5 days a week, but if you can give them 1 day a week, if the department had the HR manager, approve that, it's no cost. It might help with their retention issues. At least it'd be something that didn't cost anything that we could throw at them.
It's a big deal for people.
It is.
When
It is.
I had COVID, I had to work from home.
Oh yeah, I did too during that.
I'm salaried, so I'm gonna get paid no matter what, so they might as well make me work. But I was actually more productive at home, because I didn't have all the distractions of being in the office. Now there's stuff I can't do from home, so I can't do that all the time.
What distractions like what?
Coworkers.
Seriously, people walk by and they have to talk about the movement, and talk about this and that stuff. That
So
happens
it's
a
not
lot
like
in
you,
an office.
get fewer phone calls if you were at home.
No, cause they just forwarded my office phone to my personal cell.
Actually, and did you know, I did not know this, our phones here at Rusk County, you can take your physical desk phone and take it home with you and plug it into your computer, and if they call that number that's out to the public, it rings.
Cool. Didn't need to know that.
Don't take my.
IT has to set something up with it, but.
So I haven't
Apparently you
found
didn't
it
tell
yet.
her
Is there
that.
something in here that that is forbidding people that are face to face daily with the public from working from home. That is one of my big concerns.
Yes,
I'm sure that's in here.
you said something about that, about having,
There's the responsibility of the department has to schedule employees to provide for coverage during regular work hours. The public relies on county services to meet their health and financial needs. Yeah, by allowing an employee to telecommute, it shall not reduce or limit any services to the public, can't be detrimental to the county. Not all work situations are appropriate for telecommuting, nor is telecommuting appropriate for all employees. They must ensure that an appropriate work environment and appropriate framework of expectations exist.
So how do you?
It is the responsibility of the employee's direct supervisor to ensure that quality services continue to be delivered at an equal or improved level of timeliness and efficiency.
there should say something about that.
So how do you implement that?
Krista sits at that desk, she shouldn't be able to work from home because she
Well,
can't.
but I would argue that in a pinch, Miranda or Ann
Well,
could be.
I understand that, but I mean, that window
Subject to
should not
sheriff.
be able to be closed down so she can work at home.
Oh, right, so the
That's
window
what
is open.
he's saying.
But that is
Yes.
because that says that if you allow
Face-to-face.
anybody to work from home, you can't limit services, and that would definitely be limited services. Cause
think
if I had
that's
to,
what you're
if I had to
referring
type
right?
in, if I had to type in every
How do you actually manage that if one
department.
person is working from home and the other person calls in sick? Now you don't have any coverage.
No,
Call them up and say, get your butt in here.
Have to come in.
Yeah, and
Yes.
that's in the policy, that is in the policy, that somebody who is telecommuting on, they can be called back in by their supervisor.
I guess back to the
Maybe complicated.
It isn't complicated.
the examples that were given for individuals that are working from home, I'm a little baffled that some that left from a certain department, there's the department right now that has 50% of the people working from home. If I understood that correctly.
It is very situational from what I've understood.
Then not 50% at any one time. 50% of the employees who work from home occasionally are from
By
that.
occasionally you're talking,
And we're
once a pay
not sure where the
period.
other departments are, it's just general government.
okay, I asked for names on something earlier and wasn't
General.
getting answers. So it's in there.
Military terms, what is,
What would it be?
general government is something like major nuisance, right?
To Phil's point both Phil's point, it has been seen on the exit surveys now. I don't wanna get back into wages with this, but the problem is that some of these other counties that can allow a lot more money or pay a lot more money like Barron, they're also allowing full telecommuting. So before it used to be, okay, for them to take the jobs, they're gonna have to either commute longer or, do all this, move to a different county, whatever that may be. But we're losing employees to Barron, Eau Claire, Chippewa because they can get paid a lot more and they're allowed to telecommute. So it's not only the aspect of, oh, that's further away.
Who's the genius that came up with the term telecommuting so they wouldn't have to say work from home?
An HR professional.
Toss her right under there.
Wow.
Right under the bus. There we go.
I didn't take that as throwing on as a bus.
Oh,
This is an HR professional.
yeah,
He took it as a
Right
compliment. That's wonderful.
this is like join our
You
team.
gotta read the room.
Sorry, that was a compliment.
Okay,
I-
you said anything, Mr. Jim?
I think it'll get abused. That's just my gut telling me.
Okay. But did we
Not too
not,
often, Tom.
did we not just say, we trust our department heads? to-
We're talking, okay, you're not comparing apples to apples. We're talking of.
You're right, we're not,
Instance,
you're right, we're not
we're
comparing
talking
apples
of an
to apples.
instance where they focus on it together. Now we're talking numerous department heads, and it's gonna be Free Willy, open season.
What I
I'm
think,
telling you, it will
what I
be.
think Jim is saying, more importantly, is that you're going to have every department head administering this differently.
No, every department
that's
has
the
to
problem.
administer it according to the policy.
And I don't think the policy,
It's not narrowed down enough.
it doesn't accommodate,
It says draft
um,
there. She's
who's
gonna-
going to be the easy department head and who's going to be the
I agree.
hardness.
Yeah.
Um,
So are we asking Ashley to have a better draft of
The draft.
that? Yeah, of the draft? No,
this,
just take and make it one thing, you know?
we go to N, okay.
And.
Number 4, telecommuting expectations, starts on A and ends in N. How much more detailed do we need to get, is my question. And we just said we're gonna trust our department heads, HR, and our administrative coordinator to take care of discipline and termination of employees. But we're not gonna trust our department heads, our administrative coordinator, or our HR department to handle a work from home policy.
What's the school got for work?
I think you would.
That's not
I think
bad.
you would-
No. During COVID, we had learn from home policy, so.
It's called summer.
So at least, Mr. Chairman, I'm perhaps wrong, but I am consistently wrong.
No,
Because I'm opposing both policies. I'm not the one that you can say what about.
right, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we just, as a committee, we just passed a policy saying we're gonna trust our department heads. And now we're turning right back around with this one and saying we're not going to trust our department heads.
That's
Right,
right,
he doesn't trust anybody.
It's
Well,
different.
that's,
You're not
and
comparing
he's
apples to
consistent.
apples here.
but as a committee, we made that decision.
No, I get it.
Okay,
I vote-
at the risk of having all of my conservative friends in the room burst out in laughter, I'm going to say, Ronald Reagan once said, trust but verify.
I'm not denying that.
Trust but
Okay.
verify.
Hey, come to that, no, that's an important point. So we trust them, we verify through their work performance and output. That's what department heads do, right? Right.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not
What you're
saying,
hinting at is, we're gonna trust them, but nobody's gonna follow up, so we're gonna say, well, Sally used to get through 7 dozen widgets in a day, and now she's got 3 done. But nobody's checking up on her, so who gives her rats behind it? You verify
And
through
frankly,
their work
I'm not
performance.
certain that isn't a possibility.
The what?
That some
so,
of our department heads have a much lower standard of accountability than others.
Why are they still department
Thank you
heads?
for saying that. I was thinking
So
of it,
the-
but.
Because I think that's going to be a major problem is that employees are gonna say, this department head just lets them do whatever they want to, and my
But-
department head
They
doesn't.
may be saying that right now.
I was gonna say,
Could be in the
respectively,
building.
Dave, can I say that I think that would happen in the building though too, is
Does
that?
happen in the building.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I don't
saying, so
think
it's
it's
not
gonna
gonna,
be
what's gonna
different.
change by.
But why aren't we doing something about it in the building? If we're not doing something about it, if it happens in the building, it's even less likely that we're gonna do something about it if it's
Well,
happening.
also respectfully, that would be the key, because I don't have authority to do anything
Okay,
with the department.
so,
We need some motion there.
hold on.
Could be midnight.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually,
right, the last thing I'm
one
gonna
question, one question for you. If we go with option A, okay, that is, they're eligible to work 2 days a week from home.
Option A, you would need to pick an option 1 or 2 to go with A, because option 1 would be, you guys would choose to allow employees
Right.
2 days per week, or the supervisor would determine the number of days per
So-
week or payroll period that they would be allowed.
So
to
if we wanna take that one step farther, then we go option A, option 1, and they are allowed a maximum of 2 days per week. I would like to see a maximum amount of time put on that, not an unlimited amount of time per year. You know what I mean? So, up to 6 weeks a year. Okay? They can work 2 days a week, up to 6 weeks. After that, they're not allowed to work from home, if we're gonna go with that.
I don't understand that, why? I mean,
Because,
that
here's the,
means that I can only work from home for 6 weeks out of the year, 2 days a week. or how many
I'd
days
be
is
more
that
inclined
somebody
to
who's
work.
met? I would just say,
And it
why do
would
we
be
have to be
somewhat
so-
easier to consistently administer if it is a scheduled regularity. I mean, when we talked about flexible schedules, I know we did this with the zoning department where they
So-
flex their time so that they actually have more hours of public coverage, or they did it before Friday afternoons. But I would say, I would be more supportive of one day a week.
So to your point, to your point, Sherry, the reason I say that is because
It's at 4.5 hours I start to come.
if you have 12 employees in a department, and all 12 of them have the ability at some point to work from home, you can't allow them all to work from home 2 days a week,
I
that's.
understand that, but that's my.
So if you
point.
limit it, it allows everybody to take advantage of that.
No, I think you're
So-
micromanaging your department head, I mean.
But we just
you
said we
would
don't
say-
trust our department heads to manage it.
That's not, I've never said that, I'm saying that it's obvious you can't let all 12 of your 12 employees work from home on the same 2 days every week, that, then you need to get a new department head. I mean, if you don't have somebody that's more responsible than that, then you shouldn't be employing them as a leader. If you're gonna trust your department heads, then trust them, don't say, oh, we trust you, but only in this tiny little gate. Trust them to make the decision, and then if they suck at their job, then we take care of the department head in this committee.
How much is this committee even able to be aware of performance issues with our department heads?
Said we're usually in closed session.
So, again, this is where I was, I'm more in favor of the situational. But if we're not even gonna consider that, and we're gonna consider either all or nothing, then I'm gonna support the option A rather than option C. That's where I stand.
I thought you were here.
I thought you were.
That's where I'm at.
You're at B?
I'm at B, a situational policy, not,
And that's 2 days for maximum duration of 6 weeks.
yes. But
It means you can
we,
be out on maternity leave and that's it.
maternity leave is something completely separate from.
We have no
6
maternity
weeks.
leave policy here
You
for
know.
us.
No, I'm just saying, that's as long as it is.
Well, next we're gonna have employees out on maternity leave. How are we gonna combat that?
We have no
What if-
maternity leave
what
here,
if
we
they-
offer
what
no
if they don't have a
benefits for our
child?
pregnant employees.
So they're on,
You don't.
they're on FML.
We can have anybody right now go on a maternity leave. Because we don't have a policy.
Okay.
I'm not going out.
We do have
Well,
an
that's how we got here right now, right?
But some people
I'm
can't
just
go on
saying.
maternity leave because they're unbearable.
I would say, I'm gonna remember that.
You know how much fun it is right now listening to
Yes,
this court
okay.
right now?
How do we want to proceed with this?
I think we don't have a time frame. Maybe you can do like 2 days a week or 1 day a week, but not say, oh, 6 weeks out of a year. But there's 52 weeks in here, that isn't very much. You gotta give them a chance to fail.
So is that the intention of 2 weeks, 2 days a week for 6 weeks?
But they won't.
Or was that just
For the
the
situation,
approval prop, okay, for situation?
Yes.
are you talking about for situational? Or are you talking about in the normal, you're thinking? Honestly, I was trying to conform the policy to what you guys would maybe want to see, so in option B for the reason why I put like stipulations on it, because I figured you wouldn't want it to be
2
open-ended.
days a week for.
If you wanted it to be open, I mean, you can strike that and we can make it open-ended, but I didn't.
The situation.
Then what are we even offering that?
I did look at many other counties' policies to put this one together.
Yeah,
Or situational, if the broken leg, the whatever,
but that's
you would
the
allow
only way you would be able to do.
2 days a week for 6 weeks. That could be renewed for another 6 weeks if that person, disability or temporary, mobility problem persisted, but that's not the same as everybody having the option of working 1 day a week from home all the time, or 2 days a week from home all the time.
You guys make it seem like everybody in the courthouse is gonna be able to work from home. It's a handful of people
Right.
here and there, and if you give them 12 days a year to work from home, why bother making a
Oh, I
policy
agree.
of that? That
But
doesn't make sense.
I think that's a reasonable, limit to put on the situational.
12 days a year?
Well, what's situational? That's broken leg
I know,
or
but
some
then you're
other
saying you don't really
extenuating
want
circumstance
work
that,
from home policy, you
That's
just
a-
want.
that's a separate policy from whether we have a work from home policy.
I think we're talking two different things, aren't we?
Or are we back to option C now?
We're not even talking about this really.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We haven't been to option C for a while.
So you're saying there's only, you
I'm-
just would be okay with just situational, that's it?
No.
Option B.
No, I said if you're gonna push for option C, I'm at option B, situational, okay? But if somebody wants to, if we want to go with option A, I'm fine with that.
I mean, C was written so nice and neat, it was like, it takes you 30 seconds to read that puppy, you can't even reword it. You can't even reword it, it's written so.
We did that for you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're not gonna do
No.
I thought you were just saying that's the only way you want it
No,
to be.
no, 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 no,
Easier.
no.
That's what it sounded like.
I was saying if we're saying we don't trust our department heads, then that's what we go with.
See, I thought we were talking in
No.
terms of the spectrum.
No.
I would like to make a motion to go with option A.
Yes.
Okay, and then you have to pick either from option 1 or 2 with option A.
Do you want mustard or pickles with that?
Yes.
I would like to go with option 2 because that's what our department heads.
Okay,
You can't
so,
put ketchup on a hot dog.
so we,
Put mustard in
I
there.
understand what you're saying. I'm not sure that I appreciate opposition to the policy being labeled as not trusting our department heads.
so we have a
We
motion on
have
the
other
floor.
reasons for not finding the policy.
Okay, one second. We have a motion on the floor to approve telecommuting policy option A with option 2, where it's up to the supervisor to determine the number of days per week / payroll period that the employee will be allowed to telecommute. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? This is where
You would further
you
discuss.
further discuss what you were just saying. So,
No, I'm just, stating from my personal perspective that I should have the option of not approving the policy and not have it being labeled as not trusting our department.
I would agree with you on that,
I just.
which is why when I read the motion, I didn't include that part in.
Yeah, so if I vote no, it's not because I don't
Right.
trust our department heads. Yeah.
Understood. So,
And it could be because I don't.
is there any further discussion after that?
It should be a roll call vote.
Okay, the only that was requested a roll call vote. Clerk will call the roll.
Yes.
Mr. Willingham?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Anything we can vote on that I can,
Say yes to?
I can be on the yes side.
Wow. Well,
Adjournment, yeah.
We're not there yet.
we moved number 6 to the end because we have 2 more closed sessions to.
So years ago, I was gonna say this just really quick, so when I would ask somebody a question when I was working in that, what she did, she asked a question back. It was from a guy that was interviewing a guy, and he said, please don't answer my question with a question.
I just want you guys to know, I would totally know Willingham and Meyer.
I'd like that framed.
You like this?
There's no budget.
Would you like that, would you like
I'd
that?
like that frame, and when our names are next to each other, we both want.
You want that encrusted, sure.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Bronze encrusted, we're gonna
My
mount
mom
it
still
right here
does
on
a
the
little
wall.
stitching, I'll see if I can find her and do it.
I want it increased in size too, and mount it on the wall back here.
Okay, Chair,
Alright.
before we move on, due to the nature of the size of this policy, usually policies can stop at personnel due to the change. Do you want this to go to the full county board?
Will it work from home policy?
Yes.
Most definitely, that needs to go.
I think,
I love talking about it.
If
I'm
that-
sorry, not turning it back up, but
I think it's significant enough that if it requires a change in the,
It's a pretty major change in the policy.
Handbook.
I would agree.
I would agree with you too.
Okay, Dave, we have one more shot. We got one more shot.
Alright, so. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I make a motion.
Do I have a second? We move number 6 to the end.
End.
End, after these.
I'll second.
Okay,
First and second?
medical leave request pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851C for consideration of employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. You're now in closed session.
It's past my bedtime.
What?
It's past my bedtime.
Yeah, we've heard of that before.